What watershed do you live in? A watershed is an area of land that drains to a common waterway. Watersheds combine to form a network of rivers and streams that drain into larger watersheds. There are 10 watersheds within Murfreesboro city limits. As a resident or business owner, you have a vital role in the health of your watershed. So what watershed do you live in? With its giant springs, disappearing streams, and extensive cave systems, the overall Creek Watershed provides a unique setting for western Murfreesboro. Overall Creek springs up from the Snail Shell Cave System in the limestone hills of western Rutherford County near the Windrow community. On its way to the West Fork of the Stones River, it flows through rolling cropland and expanding neighborhoods before crossing the busy I-24 corridor. After flowing by the Florence community, the creek and its springs empty into the West Fork Stones River.
As everything in Rutherford County, a lot of our streams, at least in the unincorporated areas, it's mainly agricultural. Now, as that land gets developed, there are regulations in place as far as Rutherford County is concerned to keep the buffers intact, so there will still be trees along the stream side to keep the quality of the water. One of the programs that Rutherford County has is that we hire summer interns to walk our streams, and they take a look and make sure that there's no illicit discharges or any unusual conditions in the stream. We make sure that the quality of the water is up to our regulations. Overall Creek is pretty deep in some areas, so in the last couple of summers they've actually been able to kayak and take some opportunities to map some of the outfalls we haven't seen in the past. So Rutherford County has some regulations as far as water quality goes, and you may see these in your subdivision or at the schools that you visit within the watershed. They're called retention ponds or detention ponds, and these are ponds that give the water an opportunity to go in, settle out, get all the sediment out, get all your pollutants and nutrients out of the water before it enters into our streams and directly affects the quality of our streams. So this is a visual I use at the front counter when explaining sediment basins or even silt fence. And you can actually see as it's settled out right now, the sand particles are at the bottom and then it comes up to the clay that's finer at the top here. And you'll see why in a second, that when active construction happens, all of that gets stirred up in a rainfall or anything, and then it takes it a long time to settle out. So once it hits into a sediment basin, it gets an opportunity to slow down, the water stops, and all the particles start falling out. And as you can see, the sand is already dropped out, but the water is still cloudy because of all the clay particles. And that is one of the things that you don't really want your habitat or ecosystem breathing in through their gills, or anyone really hanging out in it. In Rutherford County, you're very lucky that all the municipalities really work closely together. Watersheds don't read maps, so some are in the city, part of it's in the county, and we really do work together to make sure that every citizen within Rutherford County is taken care of regardless of which jurisdiction they live in.
In the summer months, much of Overall Creek dries up except around springs where life thrives in the cold water. In these segments, lush aquatic plants live in cliff ripples and mist hangs above the creek when cold water mixes with humid air. Not long after, though, the spring water disappears in the stream bed. After the stream sinks, the channel becomes barren and desolate until the next spring emerges from the ground. It's not until arrival of winter springs that the creek flows through its course, becoming a powerful river. Below the Overall Creek watershed is a vast network of underground streams which carry water from sinkholes to springs. Some of the sinkholes offer us a glimpse of the cave stream running through the bottom of them. These karst windows, obscured in shade and cooled with cave air, have their own ecosystems and dot the watershed. Subterranean streams like these and tributaries like Puckett Creek and Armstrong Branch are home to a great diversity of wildlife. A unique community of cave-dwelling creatures like the Tennessee cave salamander and cave crawfish live just below the surface, while a different community of animals live in the surface streams above.
All right, I'm standing here on the limestone bed of Overall Creek in Murfreesboro. We're just downstream of Franklin Road. And what you see here is a giant stream channel. We have big mature trees over the top of us. We have boulders and rocks everywhere. We have debris up on the bank here. And we have algae, all the evidence of a giant stream running through here. But right now there's no water. And this happens every single year in the dry times in Overall Creek. That's because the type of limestone we have here, the stream loses its water underground. It'll flow into cave streams and underground waterways, and they'll pop back up in a spring. So we may go upstream or downstream, and it may look totally different than this. All right, we're standing back in Overall Creek. This time we are upstream of Franklin Road, and we've got lots and lots of water. All of this water sinks underground into underground flow paths, and so where we were before was totally dry. All of this water that I'm standing in disappears. This water's here. This is very cold. It's a fall day, but it's very hot outside today. But this water is very cold because it comes out of a spring that's here behind me. And so this is how Overall Creek is. You'll get some spring water that comes in, and then not long after that, it'll disappear underground, and it'll leave a dry stream bed.
Overall Creek by the numbers. The Overall Creek watershed is almost 60 square miles. While only 20% of the watershed is in Murfreesboro city limits, a significant portion of the city drains to Overall Creek. The watershed is also one of the fastest growing watersheds in the city. With more and more rooftops, parking lots, and roads being built, the surface of the watershed is changing to become more impervious. Because less rainwater can soak into the ground, stormwater controls and streamside buffers are important to ensure Overall Creek stays pristine. What schools are in Overall Creek watershed? Otters and rockets aren't the only ones hitting the books in the Overall Creek watershed. If you go to school at Blackman Elementary, Blackman Middle, Blackman High School, or Scales Elementary School, your school is in the Overall Creek watershed. Rain falling on parking lots at Rockvale Middle and Elementary schools also finds its way to Overall Creek. What about the health of Overall Creek? Currently, Overall Creek itself has good water quality and isn't listed on the State of Tennessee list for impaired waters. In fact, in-house sampling found Overall Creek to have a high diversity of sensitive bugs, which indicates clean water. But as watersheds urbanize, water quality can go down. That's why the city is being proactive to protect the health of this watershed. So what is being done to protect Overall Creek? The Overall Creek watershed within the city is changing. Privacy fences are replacing farm rows and roads are extending across cornfields. More vehicles are crossing the creek than ever before. With this change is a chance to protect Overall Creek. Protecting Overall Creek starts at the stream with the streamside buffer or water quality protection area. A streamside buffer is the area of vegetation on either side of a stream which holds the stream bank in place, shades the stream, and provides habitat for life living in and around the stream. The buffer is also a vital part of the stream. If you live alongside Overall Creek in the Marymount Springs and Kingdom Ridge neighborhoods, you probably have a water quality protection area in your backyard. This area protects the streamside buffer and was established when these neighborhoods were built. At least 3 miles of Overall Creek is now protected with a water quality protection area. In a further effort to protect Overall Creek, Rutherford County, the city, and MTSU team up for Tree Day and invite residents of a watershed to pick up trees for planting in their watershed. In 2017, close to 1,000 trees and shrubs spread roots into Overall Creek watershed thanks to residents planting them. Protecting Overall Creek happens even farther away from the creek. Stormwater controls like detention basins and bioretention areas capture potentially polluted stormwater and let it soak into the ground. There are 20 bioretention areas and 104 detention basins treating stormwater throughout the watershed. A look at Overall Creek Elementary, a creek-friendly school. In 2014, Overall Creek Elementary was built on the banks of Overall Creek with water quality in mind. From education programs to plants that treat stormwater runoff, the school is creek-friendly.
We're standing in what I call a bioretention cell here at Overall Creek Elementary. Some people would call it maybe a rain garden, and that's what it is. It's a sunken garden, so to speak, with plants in it. The school is sloped and designed so that when it rains, water comes here, it can pool in here, soaking into the ground. If there's a whole lot of rain, there's systems for it to overflow and go to the creek, but small rains, it soaks into the ground, it waters the plants, and we like that water going into the ground, resupplying or keeping the groundwater there. When a city develops and roads are built and schools are built, the landscape changes. We go from vegetation, trees, maybe farmland, where when it rains, a lot of that water goes to the plants and the ground, not much runs off. Put in the pavement, the school buildings, the roads, now it starts to run off. So this kind of helps mimic the way it was before all of the hard surfaces were put down.
What makes Overall Creek unique is the creek, Overall Creek, running along the whole eastern border of the property, and it allows us so many educational connections for students. Also, Overall Creek is, our whole parking lot is made out of pavers. The city of Murfreesboro has tried the best that it could to minimize that negative effect that sometimes development has on watersheds or Overall Creek. Now, the great part about Overall Creek is it also is very clean water. It does have some great aquatic life. So we're talking about, engineering with erosion and water, which also get to talk about the biology of having Overall Creek. And with an elementary school, it's just, the sky's the limit.
We are Overall Creek Watershed.
We are Overall Creek Watershed.